Welcome, gentle traveler. Tonight's story comes from ancient times, whispered across generations by travelers who walked beneath endless skies. It is a tale of an old caravan road that wound through deserts and mountains, through valleys and oases, carrying merchants and dreamers, storytellers and seekers, all moving slowly, steadily, following the path worn smooth by countless footsteps before them. This is a story about journeys that teach us wisdom, about the gentle rhythm of camels' hooves on sand, about starlit nights around warming fires, and about how the longest roads always lead us home to ourselves. So settle in, dear listener. Pull your blankets close, soft and warm around you. Let your eyes grow heavy if they wish. Let your breathing find its own peaceful pace, in and out, slow and natural, like waves touching a distant shore. And let us walk together, you and I, down the old caravan road. Long ago, when the world was younger and time moved with the patient pace of seasons, there was a caravan road that stretched across lands both vast and beautiful. This road was ancient even then, its path marked by stones worn smooth by wind and feet, by the passage of thousands upon thousands of travelers who had walked this way before. The road began in a city of golden domes and whispering fountains, where merchant stalls spilled over with silks and spices, where the air shimmered with heat and hummed with the voices of people from every corner of the world. From this bustling place, the road wound outward like a ribbon unfurling, leading through gates tall and proud, then out into the open desert where the sky seemed to go on forever. Those who traveled this road moved in caravans, groups of merchants and their families, traveling together for safety and companionship. They rode on camels, those patient creatures with soft brown eyes and steady gaits, who could carry heavy loads across endless sand without complaint. The camels moved with a gentle swaying motion, rocking their riders like boats on calm water, and the bells around their necks sang out with soft, rhythmic chimes that marked the pace of the journey. One such traveler was a young merchant named Tariq, whose name meant Morning Star. Tariq had inherited his father's trading business, but he had never before made the long journey along the old caravan road. His father had walked this path many times and returned with tales of wonder, of oases like emeralds set in golden sand, of mountain passes where eagles soared on silent wings, of desert nights when the stars hung so close you felt you could gather them in your hands like jewels. Now it was Tariq's turn to make this journey, carrying goods to trade in the distant city that lay at the road's end. He prepared carefully, filling his camel's packs with fine carpets woven in patterns of blue and crimson, with delicate glasswork that caught the light like captured rainbows, with sachets of fragrant spices that filled the air with dreams of faraway gardens. On the morning of departure, when the sun was just beginning to paint the eastern sky in shades of rose and amber, Tariq joined the caravan assembling outside the city gates. There were perhaps 50 camels in all, each one laden with goods, each one tended by a merchant or a merchant's family. Children sat in special seats on some of the camels, their eyes wide with the excitement of adventure. Older travelers wrapped themselves in flowing robes to protect against sun and sand, their faces calm with the patience that comes from having made this journey many times before. The caravan master was a woman named Zara, whose gray hair spoke of many years and whose kind eyes spoke of even greater wisdom. She had led caravans along this road for more seasons than anyone could count. She knew every watering hole, every sheltered camping place, every hidden danger, and every secret beauty the road held. We're ready. When the camels were loaded and the travelers mounted, Zara raised her staff, a simple wooden staff, worn smooth by her hand over countless journeys, and called out in a voice both strong and gentle. We begin. May the road rise softly to meet us. May the wind be ever at our backs. May water be sweet and shade be plentiful. May we arrive safely, and may we return home wiser than we left." And with those words, the caravan began to move. The camels stepped forward with their slow, rolling gait, and the bells around their necks began their soft singing. The sound was like music, like a lullaby played on distant chimes, and it would continue, hour after hour, day after day, marking the rhythm of the journey. Tariq felt his own camel sway beneath him, and he adjusted to the motion, letting his body relax into the gentle rocking. They passed through the great gates of the city, leaving behind the sounds of fountains and marketplaces, leaving behind the familiar sights of home. The road stretched out before them, pale and dusty in the morning light, leading toward the horizon where the desert waited, vast and golden. For the first hours, they passed through farmlands where date palms grew in ordered rows, their fronds rustling softly in the breeze. Farmers looked up from their work to wave at the passing caravan, and children ran alongside for a little way, laughing and calling out greetings. Then gradually, the green gave way to brown and gold, and they entered the desert proper. The desert was not empty, as Tariq had sometimes imagined. It was alive with subtle beauty. The sand itself came in shades he had never noticed before, not just yellow, but amber and cream and pale rose, shifting with the light. Small shrubs grew here and there, their roots reaching deep for hidden water, their tiny leaves silver green. Lizards sunned themselves on rocks, quick and jewel bright. Hawks circled high overhead, riding the warm air with wings spread wide. The caravan moved steadily onward, never hurrying, never stopping except when Zara called for rest. The sun climbed higher, and the day grew warm, but it was not unpleasant. The travelers had dressed wisely in light, flowing garments that kept the sun's heat at bay, while allowing the breeze to cool their skin. They sipped water from leather flasks, taking small amounts at regular intervals, as Zara had instructed. Tariq found himself settling into the rhythm of travel. The motion of the camel became natural, like breathing. The soft chiming of bells became like heartbeat, steady and sure. His thoughts, which had been busy with worries about the journey and the trading ahead, began to slow and quiet. There was something about the vastness of the desert, the openness of the sky, the patient pace of travel that made anxious thoughts seem to blow away like dust on the wind. Around midday, Zara led them to a place where a cluster of large rocks provided shade. The caravan halted, and the travelers dismounted, their movements slow and careful after hours in the saddle. They unsaddled the camels and let them rest, and they themselves sat in the blessed coolness of the shade, eating simple food, flatbread and dates, cheese and olives, and drinking sparingly of water. Tariq sat near an older merchant named Ibrahim, whose face was weathered like old leather, but whose smile was warm. Ibrahim had been traveling this road for 40 years, he said, since he was younger than Tariq himself. "The road teaches," Ibrahim said softly, his voice like wind through reeds. "Every journey, it teaches something new. Not with words, you understand, but with silence, with distance, with the rhythm of walking day after day. You will see, young Tariq, by the time we reach the other end, you will know things you didn't know you needed to learn." Tariq didn't fully understand, but he nodded respectfully. Around him, other travelers were doing what people do during rest stops on long journeys, adjusting their loads, checking their camels' hooves, sharing quiet conversation, or simply sitting in peaceful silence. After an hour's rest, Zara stood and raised her staff once more. "We continue," she called gently. "The afternoon will be warm, but there is a good camping place ahead. We will reach it before sunset." And so they mounted their camels again, and the caravan resumed its journey. The afternoon sun was indeed warm, but not harsh. The travelers wrapped their headscarves more closely, protecting faces and necks, and the camels plodded onward with patient determination. Their hooves made soft sounds in the sand, whoosh, 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 a sound like whispered secrets, like the desert itself breathing. Tariq found his mind drifting as they traveled. He thought about his father, who had walked this very path. He thought about the stories his father had told, sitting by the fire in their courtyard at home, stories of adventures and strange encounters, of lessons learned and wonders witnessed. His father's voice had always grown soft and distant when he spoke of the Caravan Road, as if the road itself was a sacred thing, a teacher, a friend. The shadows grew longer as afternoon melted into evening. The harsh white light of midday softened into gold, then amber, then a deep and glowing orange. The desert seemed to come alive in this light, every grain of sand catching fire, every rock and shrub edged in brightness. Then, just as the sun was touching the western horizon, they came over a low rise and saw before them the place where they would camp for the night. It was an oasis, small but perfect. A pool of water, clear and still as glass, reflected the colored sky. Date palms grew around it, perhaps a dozen of them, their fronds moving gently in the evening breeze. Grass grew soft and green near the water's edge, and best of all, there were the remains of old campfires, circles of stones blackened by the fires of countless travelers who had stopped here before. The caravan descended toward the oasis with sounds of relief and pleasure. The camels, sensing water, moved a little faster. The travelers' voices rose in gentle chatter, in laughter, in the busy sounds of making camp. Zara directed everyone to their places with quiet efficiency. The camels were unsaddled and led to drink at the pool, but carefully, in small groups, so as not to muddy the water. Tents were unpacked and erected, simple structures of wool and poles that would provide shelter for the night. Fires were built in the stone circles, and the smell of cooking began to fill the air. Rice with lentils, bread warming on hot stones, tea brewing in brass pots. Tariq helped with his own camp, working alongside other young merchants. They spoke little, but the silence was comfortable, the silence of people working together toward a common goal. When his tent was up and his belongings arranged, Tariq walked to the edge of the oasis and looked out at the desert beyond. The sun had set now, and the sky was a deep, luminous blue, fading to purple at the edges. The first stars were appearing, tiny points of silver light. The air was cooling rapidly, as desert air does when the sun disappears, and it felt fresh and clean in Tariq's lungs. He heard soft footsteps behind him and turned to see Zara approaching. She stood beside him, looking out at the same view, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. "It's beautiful," Tariq said finally, his voice quiet, almost reverent. Zara nodded. "The desert gives many gifts to those who travel through it with respect," she said. "Beauty is one, silence is another, peace is a third, and patience, perhaps patience most of all." "Ibrahim told me the road teaches," Tariq said. "Ibrahim speaks truth," Zara replied. "The road has been teaching for thousands of years. It taught your father. It taught me. It will teach you if you listen not with your ears, but with your whole being." She paused, then added, "Come, the evening meal is ready. On the caravan we eat together, all of us. It is one of our traditions. For though we may be merchants and competitors in the marketplace, here on the road, we are family." They returned to the oasis, where the travelers were gathering around the fires. Food was shared, each family contributing something, so that the meal became a feast of variety. There was rice cooked with saffron until it glowed golden. There was lamb flavored with cumin and coriander. There was flatbread still warm from the fire. There were dates and figs and almonds. There was tea sweetened with honey and flavored with mint. The travelers sat on carpets spread on the ground, eating slowly, savoring each bite. The children had been fed first, and now they were playing a quiet game near one of the tents, their laughter like music. The adults talked in low voices, sharing news of their cities, discussing routes and trading prospects, or simply enjoying the companionable silence. After the meal, as the fires burned down to glowing coals, someone brought out a musical instrument, a simple wooden flute. The player began to play, soft melodies that seemed to float on the night air like wisps of smoke. Other travelers hummed along, or swayed gently, or simply listened with eyes half closed. Tariq felt a deep contentment settling over him. It had been only one day of travel, and yet he felt changed somehow. The anxieties he had carried from the city, worries about whether he would be a successful merchant, whether he would make his father proud, whether he was ready for this responsibility, seemed to have loosened their grip. Here, under these stars, with these kind people, with the gentle music and the warm fire, such worries seemed small and distant. And Zara stopped. "Grows late," she said. "We rise with the sun tomorrow. Rest well, all of you. Dream peacefully. The road watches over us." The travelers dispersed to their tents, calling soft good nights to one another. Tariq entered his own small tent and lay down on the carpet he had spread there, covering himself with a light blanket. Through the tent's opening, he could see the stars, more stars than he had ever seen in the city, so many they seemed like a river of light flowing across the darkness. He fell asleep to the sound of the camels settling for the night, their soft huffing and shifting, and to the whisper of wind through the date palms. His dreams, when they came, were peaceful and free. The days that followed fell into a gentle pattern, a rhythm as natural as breathing. Each morning, they woke with the dawn, that magical time when the darkness softens to gray, then to pale blue, then suddenly to rose and gold as the sun lifts above the horizon. The travelers would emerge from their tents, stretching, greeting the new day and one another with quiet voices. The camels would be saddled, the tents packed away, the campfires covered with sand. And then Zara would raise her staff, speak her blessing, and the caravan would begin to move once more. Sometimes they traveled through flat desert, where the horizon seemed impossibly far away, and the sky was a vast dome above them. Sometimes they passed through areas of rolling dunes, where the sand had been sculpted by wind into shapes like frozen waves, and the camels had to pick their way carefully up one side and down the other. Sometimes they traveled through rocky areas, where the path wound between boulders and outcroppings of ancient stone. Each landscape had its own beauty, its own lessons. The flat desert taught vastness and humility. The dunes taught the beauty of change, for they shifted slightly every day, never quite the same. The rocky areas taught attention and care, for one had to watch each step. They passed through villages sometimes, small clusters of mud brick houses built around wells or springs. In these places, they would trade for fresh food, vegetables and fruit, sometimes a chicken or two, fresh bread. The villagers would come out to greet the caravan, especially the children, who were always fascinated by the travelers and their camels and their tales of faraway places. Tariq found himself becoming part of the caravan in a way he hadn't expected. In the city, he had been separate, isolated in his own concerns. But here, everyone depended on everyone else. They looked out for one another. If someone's camel went lame, others helped redistribute the load. If someone fell ill, others tended them. If someone was sad or worried, others sat with them and listened. He became particularly close to a family who traveled near him in the line, a couple named Hassan and Layla, and their 3 children. The children adopted Tariq as a sort of uncle, and he found himself telling them stories during the evening camps, stories his own father had told him. He discovered that he enjoyed this, enjoyed seeing their faces light up with wonder, enjoyed the way they would beg for just one more story before bed. He also spent time with Ibrahim, the old merchant, who seemed to have endless patience for Tariq's questions. Ibrahim taught him how to read the desert, how to spot the signs of water, how to predict the weather by the color of the dawn sky, how to navigate by the stars. "The North Star, you see," Ibrahim said one night, pointing upward with a gnarled finger. "It never moves. All the other stars wheel around it through the night, but that one stands steady. As long as you can find that star, you can find your way." Tariq learned to identify other stars and constellations too: the Great Bear, the Scorpion, the Swan. He learned their names and their stories, for each constellation had a tale, passed down from ancient times. The sky became like a book he was learning to read, and each night offered new lessons. The road taught him patience, as Ibrahim had said it would. In the city, everything happened quickly. Deals were made in minutes, decisions required instant answers. But here, nothing was rushed. The caravan moved at the speed it moved, and no amount of wishing could make it go faster. This could have been frustrating, but instead, Tariq found it freeing. There was no point in hurrying, so he stopped trying. He learned to be present in each moment, to notice the small beauties around him, the pattern of light on sand, the call of a desert bird, the way the evening breeze felt against his skin. One day they came to a place where the road split into two paths. One path continued straight across the desert, direct but harsh, with few oases. The other path curved away to the north, following a line of hills, longer but with more reliable water sources. Zara called a halt, and the lead merchants gathered to discuss which path to take. Tariq listened as they debated. Some wanted the direct route, arguing it would save time. Others advocated for the longer but safer path, pointing out that the season was dry and water might be scarce on the direct route. In the end, Zara made the decision, as was her right as caravan master. "We take the northern path," she said firmly but without harshness. "Speed means nothing if we arrive with lost camels and exhausted travelers. We go the way that cares for all of us." And so they turned north, following the path along the hills. Tariq realized this was another lesson, that wisdom often means choosing the way that seems slower but is actually surer. That true leadership means protecting those you guide, not pushing them to their limits. The northern path proved to be beautiful. The hills provided shelter from the wind, and in their folds were hidden springs and small patches of greenery. They saw wild goats leaping on rocky slopes, impossibly nimble. They saw flowering bushes that filled the evening air with perfume. They camped in places where the view stretched for miles, where they could watch the sun set behind distant mountains, painting the sky in colors so vivid they seemed impossible: deep purples and burning oranges, pinks like rose petals and golds like melted honey. One evening, about 2 weeks into the journey, Zara came to sit by Tariq's fire. She accepted the cup of tea he offered and sat silent for a moment, looking into the flames. "You are becoming a true traveler," she said finally. "I can see it in the way you move, the way you sit your camel, the way you look at the road ahead." Tariq felt a flush of pride, but also humility. "I am learning," he said. "Every day I learn." "That is the secret," Zara said. "Not to think you know, but to remain always a student. The road has been here for thousands of years. It will be here for thousands more. We are just passing through, and if we are wise, we let it teach us." She paused, sipping her tea, then continued. "Your father was a good student of the road. I traveled with him several times. He had a quality of attention, of presence, that made him learn quickly. I see the same quality growing in you." "Will you tell me about him?" Tariq asked. "About what he was like on the road?" And so Zara told stories of Tariq's father as a young merchant, not so different from Tariq himself now. She told of his kindness to other travelers, his fairness in trading, his sense of humor around the evening fires. She told of how he loved the desert, how he would often rise before dawn and walk out alone to watch the sun rise, to have a few moments of solitude with the vastness. Listening, Tariq felt a connection to his father deeper than he had felt before. He understood now why his father had spoken of the caravan road with such love and reverence. It wasn't just about trade, about profit and business. It was about this, the journey itself, the lessons, the community, the beauty, the profound peace that came from moving through the world at a pace that allowed you to truly see it. The journey continued. They crossed areas of the desert where the sand was so fine it was almost like powder, muffling the camels' hooves until the caravan moved in near silence. They crossed areas where the ground was hard-packed earth, and the sound of hooves was sharp and clear. They climbed gradually into higher elevations, where the air grew cooler and the plants changed. More shrubs, more trees, different birds calling with different songs. They encountered other caravans going the opposite direction, heading back toward the city Tariq had left. When this happened, both caravans would stop, and there would be a sharing of news. The travelers heading home would describe conditions on the road ahead, where water was plentiful, where it was scarce, where they had encountered a rock slide that blocked part of the path and required a detour. They would share news from the distant city, what goods were in demand there, what prices were high and what were low. Sometimes they would trade goods right there. A merchant heading home with spices might trade some for carpets that a merchant heading out was carrying, both benefiting from the exchange. The travelers were also social occasions. Inevitably, music would appear, and sometimes people would dance in the firelight, simple, joyful dances that required no formal learning, just the willingness to move and be happy. The children from both caravans would play together, becoming instant friends in the way children do, and when it was time to part, they would wave and call goodbye, as if they had known each other forever. Tariq participated in these gatherings with growing confidence. He was no longer the nervous young merchant who had left the city. He was becoming someone who belonged to the road, who understood its rhythms and unwritten rules. He traded some of his goods profitably, but more than that, he made connections, established relationships with other merchants that would serve him in future years. One of the other young merchants from the opposite caravan, a woman named Amira, who had intelligent eyes and a quick smile, gave him some advice. "The best trading," she said, "isn't about getting the highest price. It's about creating relationships where both people feel good about the exchange, where both people win. Do that, and those people will seek you out again and again. Be greedy once, and they'll never trade with you again." To heart, it aligned with what he had been learning from the road itself, that patience and fairness and attention to others were more valuable than any short-term gain. As they traveled further, the landscape changed more dramatically. They were approaching the mountains now, the range that had been a distant blue line on the horizon for days, but was now close and real, towering peaks that scraped the sky. The road led up into these mountains through a pass, a route that had been used for centuries. It was steep in places, and the caravan had to move more carefully. The camels were sure-footed, but still, each step required attention. The travelers dismounted and walked beside their animals, lightening the load and ready to help if any camel should slip. But there was no danger, only the slow, steady climb, and the reward was the view. As they gained elevation, they could look back and see the desert spread out below them like a vast golden carpet, stretching all the way to the horizon. They could see the path they had walked, or at least imagine it, a thread connecting where they were now to where they had begun. The air in the mountains was different, thinner, cooler, incredibly clear. Everything seemed sharper, more defined. The sky was a deeper blue. The rocks showed colors Tariq had never noticed in rocks before, layers of red and gray and cream, speaking of ages beyond counting. Eagles nested in the high cliffs, and sometimes they would soar out, catching updrafts from the valleys below, and their cries would echo off the stone walls, wild, haunting, free. Clanged in the pass that night, in a sheltered spot where countless caravans had camped before. There were even crude shelters built of stacked stones, just enough to provide a windbreak. The temperature dropped sharply when the sun set, and the travelers were grateful for their wool blankets and warm tea. Tariq sat with his back against a stone wall, a blanket wrapped around his shoulders, and looked up at the stars. They were incredibly bright at this elevation, so bright they cast faint shadows. He could see the band of the Milky Way like a river of light, could see shooting stars streaking across the darkness every few minutes. Ibrahim came and sat beside him, groaning a little as his old joints settled. "I never tire of this view," the old merchant said softly. "I have crossed these mountains perhaps 100 times, and still, every time, the stars take my breath away." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, just watching, just being. Then Ibrahim said, "You have done well on this journey, Tariq. Your father would be proud. But more than that, I think you should be proud of yourself. You came willing to learn, and that is the most important quality a traveler can have." "I feel like a different person than the one who left the city," Tariq admitted. "Everything seems clearer somehow, simpler." Ibrahim nodded. "The road strips away what is unnecessary," he said. "In the city, we surround ourselves with complications, with distractions. Out here, there is only what matters: water, food, shelter, companionship, the path ahead. It teaches us what is truly important." "I don't want to lose this," Tariq said. "When I get back to the city, with all its noise and demands, I don't want to forget what I've learned here." "You won't," Ibrahim assured him. "Oh, perhaps it will grow a bit dim in the midst of daily life, but it will be there, inside you, a still point you can return to. And besides," he added with a gentle smile, "you will make this journey again and again. The road will always be here, waiting to teach you new lessons." Mountains over the next 2 days, the path winding down through forested slopes where the air smelled of pine and earth, where streams tumbled over rocks with cheerful splashing sounds, where the shade was cool and deep. At the base of the mountains, they entered a broad valley, green and fertile, with farms and orchards spreading across the landscape. It was beautiful after the austerity of the desert, all this abundance of growing things, all this water and shade. They followed the valley for 3 more days, and the traveling was easy now, almost like walking through a garden. They passed through several towns, larger than the desert villages, with proper marketplaces and mosques, with inns where travelers could rest. But Zara kept them moving. "We are close now," she told the caravan. 2 more days, perhaps 3, and we will reach the city." Tariq felt a strange mixture of feelings at these words. Part of him was excited. He would finally see the fabled city at the road's end, finally begin the trading that was the ostensible purpose of this journey. But another part of him was reluctant. He didn't want the journey to end. He had grown to love the rhythm of travel, the simplicity, the sense of community with his fellow travelers. As if sensing his thoughts, Hassan, the father of the family Tariq had become close with, said to him, "The journey never really ends, you know. We may reach the city, we may trade our goods, we may eventually return home. But the journey continues inside us. And when we are ready, the road calls us back." These words comforted Tariq, and he held them in his heart as the caravan made its final approach. On what Zara said would be the last day, they set out even earlier than usual, leaving before dawn had fully broken. There was an air of anticipation in the caravan now, an energy that had been absent in the patient daily routine. The camels seemed to sense it too, stepping a bit more quickly, their bells chiming with a brighter sound. The sun rose, and the road led them out of the valley and up one final, long, gradual slope. "At the top," Zara called back, "you will see it, the city of 7 towers, our destination." The caravan climbed the slope together, and as they crested the top, a murmur of appreciation ran through the travelers. There, spread out in the valley below, was the city. It was beautiful. White buildings with domed roofs gleamed in the morning sun. 7 towers rose above the rest, tall and elegant, catching the light so they seemed to glow. Gardens spread between the buildings, splashes of green. The city was surrounded by walls, but the gates stood open, welcoming. Beyond the city, the land continued, more valleys, more mountains in the distance, the road continuing onward to other destinations beyond. But for this caravan, this was the end of their outward journey. They descended toward the city, and as they approached the gates, people came out to greet them. This was a city that lived from the caravans, and every arrival was celebrated. They entered through gates carved with intricate patterns, passed under arches, moved into streets that were wide and clean, lined with trees that provided shade. The caravan made its way to the merchant quarter, where there was a large caravanserai, a building designed specifically to house traveling merchants and their animals, with stables for the camels, storage rooms for goods, sleeping quarters for travelers, a courtyard with a fountain for washing and refreshing oneself. They unloaded the camels with practiced efficiency, each merchant taking their goods to the storage rooms assigned to them. There was a bitter sweetness in these tasks, for it meant the journey was truly over. The caravan was disbanding. Tomorrow, they would all go their separate ways, to different parts of the city to conduct their trading, to different inns or boarding houses, each pursuing their own business. That night, however, they had one final gathering. In the courtyard of the caravanserai, they built a fire, and they shared one last meal together. There was music, of course, and storytelling and laughter, but also a gentle melancholy, the sadness that comes when something beautiful ends. Zara stood and spoke to them all. "We have completed our journey together," she said, her voice carrying clearly in the quiet courtyard. "We left as individuals, perhaps even as strangers, but we have arrived as family. We have looked out for one another. We have shared our food and our stories and our silences. We have moved together through beauty and difficulty, and we have arrived safely. This is no small thing." Zara paused, looking around at all their faces in the firelight. "Some of you will return to the city we came from, and I will lead that caravan when it forms. Others will travel onward to different destinations. But wherever you go, carry with you what the road has taught you. Carry patience, carry kindness, carry the knowledge that we are all travelers together in this world, and we need each other." There was silence after she spoke, a comfortable, complete silence. Then, one by one, people began to rise and embrace one another, saying private farewells, exchanging blessings. Tariq said goodbye to the family with the children, who hugged him tightly and made him promise to travel with them again. He said goodbye to Ibrahim, who clasped his hand warmly and said, "You have learned well. Your journeys are just beginning." He said goodbye to Zara last, bowing respectfully to her. She smiled and put a hand on his shoulder. "You will make many more journeys, Tariq," she said, "and you will lead caravans yourself one day, I think. You have the qualities needed: wisdom, patience, care for others. The road has chosen you." Tariq felt tears prick his eyes at her words, but they were good tears, tears of gratitude and completion. Eventually, the fire burned low, and people drifted away to their sleeping quarters. Tariq lay on his sleeping mat in the room he had been assigned, but he couldn't sleep immediately. His mind was too full of all that had happened, all he had experienced and learned. He thought about the journey, the daily rhythm of waking, traveling, resting, camping, the vast open spaces of desert and mountain, the nights under stars so thick they seemed like snow, the companions he had traveled with, the stories they had shared, the quiet times when nothing needed to be said. He thought about what he had learned, about patience, that rushing serves no purpose, that the right pace is whatever pace allows you to arrive well, about community, that we need each other, that no one travels alone successfully, about beauty, that it is everywhere if you have eyes to see it, in the pattern of sand ripples and the flight of birds and the colors of sunset, about simplicity, that happiness doesn't require much, just the basics of food and water and shelter and good company. He thought about his father, who had walked this road before him, and felt a connection across time, across the distance between the living and the dead. He understood now what the road had given his father, why he had spoken of it with such love. And Tariq understood something else, too, that this journey, while it had been about taking goods to trade, had really been about something deeper. It had been about his own transformation, his own growth from a young man uncertain of himself into someone who had faced challenges and learned wisdom, someone who had become part of something larger than himself. The Old Caravan Road had been his teacher, as it had been for countless travelers before him. And like all good teachers, it had taught him not by telling, but by showing, by experience, by the gradual accumulation of moments and observations that added up to understanding. Tomorrow he would begin the work of trading, of negotiating prices and making deals. He would be a merchant doing merchant work, but he would do it differently now. He would remember the lessons of the road, patience, fairness, the importance of relationships over short-term gain. He would be honest in his dealings, generous when he could be, always seeking the exchange where both parties benefited. And when his business was done, when he had sold his goods and bought new ones to carry home, he would join a caravan heading back. He would once more climb aboard a camel, hear the bells begin their gentle chiming, feel the swaying motion of travel. He would once more journey along the Old Caravan Road, seeing it from the other direction now, but still learning, still watching, still listening to what it had to teach. Because the road is always teaching, always offering its lessons to those who travel with open hearts and attentive minds. And Tariq would travel this road many times in his life. He would make the journey in different seasons, seeing how the desert bloomed after rare rains, how the mountains gleamed with snow in winter. He would travel with different companions, forming new friendships, learning new things from each person he met. He would eventually travel with a wife, and then with children, passing on the lessons he had learned, just as his father had passed them to him. The Old Caravan Road would be the central thread of his life, always calling him back, always offering new insights. And in his old age, when his beard was white and his steps were slow, he would perhaps become like Ibrahim, someone the young merchant sought out for advice, someone who had learned the road's deepest lessons and could share them with the next generation. But that was all far in the future. For now, Tariq was just a young merchant completing his first journey, lying in a quiet room, reviewing all he had experienced. Eventually, his thoughts began to slow, to soften, like the light at sunset gradually fading. His breathing deepened, became slow and even, and he drifted off to sleep, there in the caravanserai at the end of the Old Caravan Road, with the memory of stars above desert sand, with the echo of camel bells in his heart, with the profound peace that comes to travelers who have arrived safely at their destination. And you, dear listener, you too have traveled far tonight, haven't you? You have walked with Tariq along the Old Caravan Road, felt the desert wind, seen the stars above the mountains, heard the gentle chiming of bells marking the pace of days. But now, like Tariq, you have reached your destination. The journey is complete. It is time to rest. Let yourself settle now, the way the desert settles into stillness when the wind dies. Feel your body relaxing, melting into your bed like sand finding its natural level. There is nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do. You have arrived at this moment, this peaceful now, and it is exactly where you should be. Your breathing has found its own gentle rhythm, hasn't it? Like the patient pace of a camel walking, steady and sure. In and out, slow and natural, like waves on a distant shore, like wind through quiet grasses. Each breath takes you deeper into relaxation, deeper into peace. Let your eyes stay closed, or let them close now if they haven't already. Behind your closed eyelids, there is only soft darkness, restful and complete. The darkness is not empty, it's full of peace, full of quiet, full of the gentle promise of sleep. Postpone your shoulders, releasing any last bit of tension. They soften and sink into the bed beneath you. Your arms are heavy, so pleasantly heavy, warm and relaxed. Your hands are loose and open, all the work of the day released from them. Your chest rises and falls with your breathing, easy and natural. Each breath seems to relax you a little more. There's no effort needed, no trying required. Your body knows how to rest, how to release, how to prepare for sleep. You can trust it. You can just let go. Your legs are relaxing too, becoming heavy and still. Any restlessness draining away, down and down, leaving you feeling settled and calm. Your feet are loose, your toes soft, and you sink deeper into the comfort of your bed. All of you is relaxing now, becoming quiet and still. If thoughts drift through your mind, that's okay. Let them drift like clouds across a sky, like leaves floating on a stream. You don't need to follow them or hold on to them. They can simply pass through, soft and distant, while you remain here, resting, sinking deeper into peace. Imagine, if you like, that you are lying under those same stars that Tariq saw, those thousands of stars that filled the desert sky like a river of light. They shine above you now, gentle and eternal, watching over you as you rest. Their light is soft, not bright or demanding, just a quiet glow that makes the darkness feel safe and beautiful. The air around you is cool and clean, like the air in the mountains where the eagles soar. It carries the faint scent of something pleasant, perhaps the spice of desert plants, perhaps the sweetness of distant flowers, perhaps just the clean smell of night. Each breath brings in this peaceful air, and each exhale releases anything you don't need to carry with you into sleep. You are safe. You are comfortable. You are exactly where you should be. Like the soft sand where the caravan camped each night, supporting you perfectly, holding you gently. You can sink into it, trusting it to hold you. There is nothing you need to do but rest. Around you, the world has grown quiet. Whatever sounds exist fade into the background, becoming like the desert wind, just a soft whisper, just a gentle presence that doesn't disturb your peace. In fact, the quiet sounds help you relax even more, reminding you that the world is continuing, that everything is as it should be, and you can simply rest. Time has slowed down, become soft and meaningless. There is no hurry, no schedule, no next thing you need to do. There is only this gentle moment of rest, this peaceful descent into sleep. And you have all the time you need, all the time in the world to simply let go. Your breathing continues, slow and even. Perhaps it's even a little slower now, a little deeper. That's good. That's your body preparing for sleep, doing what it does naturally when you allow it, when you release control and trust. If any part of your body still holds a tiny bit of tension, you can release it now. Just notice where it is, perhaps your jaw, perhaps your forehead, perhaps somewhere in your back or shoulders, and let it soften. Let it melt away. There's no need to hold on to anything. You might imagine warmth spreading through your body, gentle and soothing, starting perhaps at the top of your head and slowly flowing downward, across your forehead, around your eyes, down through your cheeks and jaw, flowing like warm honey, like liquid peace, down through your neck, your shoulders, your arms. Slow and warm and gentle, relaxing everything it touches. Down through your chest, your belly, your back, all of you becoming soft and heavy and deeply relaxed. Down through your hips, your legs, all the way to your feet, your toes, all of you warm, all of you relaxed, all of you ready for sleep. Recognize, and as this warmth completes its journey through your body, you might feel yourself sinking even deeper, becoming even more still. Your breathing is so slow now, so peaceful. In and out, gentle as a whisper, quiet as moonlight, soft as the touch of night air. The stars above you shine on. The darkness around you is complete and comforting. You are held by the night, by your bed, by this moment of perfect peace. There is nothing to do but sleep, Nothing to think about, nothing to figure out. Just sleep, just rest, just let yourself drift. Like Tariq, at the end of his journey, you have come to the place of rest. You have traveled through your day, through your evening, through this story, and now you have arrived here, at the threshold of sleep. And you can cross that threshold now. You can step into sleep easily, naturally, like walking through an open door into a room of perfect peace. Ragat's calling you now, so gently, like the old caravan road called to travelers, inviting, welcoming, promising rest and peace and renewal. You can answer that call. You can let yourself go into sleep. Let your thoughts fade, becoming dimmer, softer, more distant, like the last light of sunset disappearing below the horizon, like the last notes of music floating away on the night air, like words whispered so quietly they become just breath, just silence. There is only peace now, only stillness, only the gentle darkness of sleep drawing you in, welcoming you, enfolding you in its soft arms. You are so relaxed, so peaceful, so ready for sleep. And sleep is here for you, waiting patiently, ready to receive you. So let yourself go now. Let yourself sleep. Quarter, drift, like a leaf on water, like a cloud across the sky, like sand shifted by the gentlest breeze, deeper and deeper, into sleep, into rest, into peace. Sleep, 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 sleep. Prescribe years be gentle, dear traveler. May your rest be deep and complete. May you wake refreshed, renewed, ready for the journey of tomorrow. But for now, just sleep. The old caravan road has brought you home to rest, and here you are safe. Here you are peaceful. Here you are loved. Flooring, dear one, sleep. Sleep.